Good evening, good evening. Happy Sunday evening to each and every one of you. We're so happy that you are joining us for our Sunday evening Financially Fit Tips. We definitely want to be sure that we are financially strong in everything that we are doing. So as you're hopping on, say hello, give us a wave so that we can say hello to you. And hey, by the way, have you been on our videos before? Go ahead and hit that little button in the left hand corner and share it with your friends. Share it with someone who you think could get some value from what we're going to share about being financially fit on today. So just as a recap, my name is Jennifer Bell, and y'all know I'm on a health and wellness journey to be fit for him, but also not only fit in my health, but also financially fit and spiritually fit. So today on Sundays, Jeff and I are coming to you to share some tips about how to be financially fit. A couple of Sundays ago, we started this to say 3 tips in order to be financially fit. So we're going a little bit more into depth with those 3 tips. Last week, we talked about how to get out of credit card debt, went into depth on that, and if you want to see that video, go back and check that out. But as you're hopping on, give us a wave, give us some thumbs up, let us know that you are with us, and we would love to go back and say hello to you. Also, it's September. Can y'all believe it? It's already September. How many of you love the fall? This is my very, very favorite season of the year, September. We know football is starting. Yep, this guy's a football guy. Hey, tell you what, drop in the comments, what is your favorite fall activity as we're kicking off September? So as you're hopping on, let us know where you're watching from, and we're going to kick this off in just a few moments. So once again, we said last couple of weeks, we came to you talking about how to be financially fit with getting out of debt. Today, we're going to be talking about living within or even below your means. Hi, Stacy. Thank you for hopping on. So as you're hopping on, once again, give us a wave. How next Sunday, just going to put it out there real quick, next Sunday you want to be with us as well, because we're going to show you some basic tips on how to save and invest. So today, my husband, Jeff Bell, right here, in case you didn't know, let me just tell you a little bit about this guy right here. He's a 20-year veteran with the U.S. Air Force, retired, and his job was in finance. He was a comptroller. He has a bachelor's in finance and also an MBA, and he has taught several personal finance classes for the University of Phoenix. So his credibility is there, and what we're going to be sharing with you today are some things that we actually do in our own home. So if you're ready to dive into the financially fit tips for today, let us see those hearts, let us see those waves, and we're going to dive right in. So, question to you. We titled this, Don't Try to Keep Up with the Joneses. You don't know what the Joneses are going through in order to be where they are. Absolutely. But do you know anyone who's trying to keep up with the Joneses? You know what I mean. The Joneses get a brand new car, then they get a brand new car. Drop a 1 in the comments if you know someone just like that. They're trying to keep up with the Joneses, even though they're struggling. Let's just be real. We're going to keep it real today, right, Jeff?
Absolutely.
Going to keep it real. So as we go into today's topic, how do you live within your means or below your means? So before we go into that, can you tell us, Jeff, exactly what does that mean?
Absolutely. Really 2 important things that you need to understand when we're talking about living within your means. The first one is understanding and knowing your net income. Not talking about gross income. I want to know exactly what it is that you're bringing into the house, net of taxes and everything else that you have coming out. So what is it that you're dealing with as far as your money that's coming in? You want to know that. And then also your expenses. Every single thing that you're spending your money on. And the important thing is that hopefully when you're going back through and you're looking at those numbers, it doesn't equal 100%. You don't want all of your income being spent towards your expenses. You want to be able to, like we talked about last week, or actually a couple of weeks ago, making sure that you have enough money set aside for your savings, set aside for investments and things like that. So the first thing we're talking about as far as living within your means is making sure that you have more than enough income to meet all of your expenses. And actually you want to make sure that your expenses are a little bit less than your total net income. So that's what living within your budget means. Living within your means.
All right, that makes sense. You guys, does it make sense to you guys? Give us some hearts. And again, if you're watching the replay, let us know you're watching the replay as well. So if I find myself living above my means, meaning I'm spending more than what I bring in, right? Then what should I do first in order to reverse that or to get that on track or get it under control?
Okay. First, let me make sure, I'm going to back up and make sure everybody understands that these are the steps, the things that we've been doing for the past 20, 25 years. So this isn't really just theory. You know, these are things that we put into practice, and so it works. And so that's one reason why we're sharing this with you. But the first thing that you want to do is actually create, put it on a spreadsheet, write it down on a sheet of paper. You want to create your budget. And what do I mean by that? Go back through and identify all of your net income, all of your different sources, and then list by detail all of your expenses. It might take a month to be able to go back and track all of your expenses, so write down your mortgage or your rent, your average utilities that you've been spending. The biggest thing is go back and take a look at how much you're spending to go out and eat and for all of these other miscellaneous type things. Go back through and take an account for a complete month of where exactly all of your money is going, every penny, and then put that down on a spreadsheet. And so that's kind of creating the first template for identifying where you're at as far as living within your means.
Okay, so once I go and I realize what my expenses are, right? I've heard this, but isn't there like a rule of thumb when you're trying to categorize your expenses and something with percentages and, what if I'm doing too much of one thing and not enough of another? Or sounds like to me I need to kind of trim the fat a little bit you know what I mean? Because sometimes, ladies, if y'all know what I'm talking about, especially those that are on, or you have wives or significant others that are ladies that, you may cannot get that mani or pedi this week if you're trying to trim the fat. Those are some things you can start. So where do I start with trimming the fat in order to get to that?
That's a good question. One of the standards when you're going back through and looking at as far as developing your budget is that your rent, your living expenses, or your mortgage should not be any more than 30% of your net income. So that's important. So if you're out there and you're trying to negotiate the purchase of a home or trying to go in there and you want to rent a new house, an apartment, your living expenses should not be any more than 30% of your net income. So that's one of the categories you want to go back and take a look at. Now, what I do, and one of the things that we live by, we look at all of our total expenses, and I try to maintain our total expenses of about 60% of our net income. And we'll talk a little bit later as far as the reason why I do that and what we're doing with the extra money. But when we go back through and identify all of the expenses, the different categories, miscellaneous type things, for going out and eating and filling the car up with gas, any other little things that might pop up, utilities, and all the different expenses and stuff. No more, all of those added up, I don't want that to exceed any more than about 60% of my net income. So those are different categories that you're looking at. The other thing that we mentioned as well, you want to make sure that you're at least investing about 10% of that, or in saving at least 10% of that. That's for emergency purposes. So I would say, based on Jennifer's question, the two biggest categories is make sure that your living expenses aren't any more than 30%, and then make sure you're investing or saving about 10% of your net income. Okay.
Tell you what, if this is making sense to you guys, throw some hearts, some thumbs up. If you have questions as we go on to our next tip, then just drop it below. I promise we'll get back to you and make sure that it's very, very crystal clear. And like Jeff said, this is what we live by. This is what we've been doing. He's been doing it, for the family forever. And now I'm really paying attention of how he's doing it, and it's making a lot of sense to me. So it sounds like we have to recalculate or recalibrate, as the GPS would say, when we're going down the wrong path. That's not going to lead us to having our money work for us or things like that. So trimming the fat, understanding what it means to live within or below your means. Let's just kind of go ahead and just kind of share a little bit about what we do there, Jeff.
Yeah, one of the things that you've done, so we've gone back and we've talked about identifying all of your expenses, putting it on one spreadsheet. So let's say, for instance, you go back and you take a look and you say, well, it is 100%. Every single thing that I'm every dime that I'm making is actually going out towards expenses. Well, that's not good. That's not a position that you want to be in, because you want to make sure you have money set aside to be able to take care of some of these other priorities that we've talked about, savings and investment for one. So that's where you want to go back and then start trimming the fat on areas that you need to cut back on. Okay. So you want to go back and take a look. The first thing I would look at is look at my miscellaneous expenses. Okay, maybe I'm eating out too much. Going in here and looking, and maybe I'm spending $500-$600. Going out to my favorite restaurant. Maybe that's too much. And so what I want to do is I want to go back through and then reduce that to a reasonable amount. Go back and take a look at all of those different kind of things. Maybe you're paying too much for cable TV or something. Maybe you want to cut back on your services. But what you want to do is you want to bring that back, that percentage, well below 100%. Okay, like I said, we live within about 60% of our expenses to our net income. Okay, so once you've done that and you've trimmed all of that back and you've eliminated a lot of these expenses, then go back and take a look as far as where you're at. Okay, so hey, I've cleaned up all of my budget, Jeff. Everything looks pretty good. Then go back and then compare your total expenses to your income. Okay, so it might be about 70 or 80% of your income. Now you're at a good position. That now becomes your budget, and that becomes your target for going forward to be able to do the things that you want to do. Okay. So now what does that mean? Okay, so now you've gone back through, you've established your budget. Okay, you have different amounts for different categories. So within that 80%, how much you're paying for rent and your mortgage. You know how much money you have set aside now that you can spend for miscellaneous things to go out and eat and entertainment and things like that. Okay, so now what you can do is any other future decisions that you want to make. Let's say, for instance, that I've created my budget, and for rent and for my mortgage, I've set aside $1,000 a month. Okay, so now let's say, for instance, I want to come in and now it's time for me to move, and so I now want to make a new purchase for a new home or rent a new apartment and something like that. Now I have a target as far as what I can potentially spend to be able to stay within my target. Okay, let's say, for instance, I've gone back through and I've set aside everything, and I know that I have $200 set aside for miscellaneous type things. That's now my budget. That's my target. Okay, so you might take out $200, however often you get paid and stuff. So you got $200 that you've got a month. Take that cash out, put it in a sock, put it in your wallet, do whatever you have to do. But now you have that cash to be able to go out and spend for your miscellaneous type things. And once that money's gone, it's gone. You've exhausted that budget for that time period. So the thing is now you want to live within those categories that you set aside for your budget after you've cleaned up everything. But you also know that you're not spending, up to 100%. And we'll talk about next week as far as what we can do with that additional money. Like I said, we talked about savings, we talked about investments, but we'll talk about some of the other things that you can do with that excess money. Okay, to kind of make sure that you're getting ahead. So that's kind of the whole entire process. And the thing is that however often that you get paid, go back and review it. I review my budget at least once or twice a month, just to go back and make sure that everything's on track. You might have some expenses that might pop up and stuff. So I go back through and I look at it to make sure that everything's accounted for. So it has to be an active document. It's not something that you do and you just kind of put on a shelf and just kind of forget about it. Go back through and review it and adjust it and everything else to make sure that you're living within those percentages that you've already created for yourself.
So if this is making sense to you guys, y'all give us some hearts, let us know. Any questions, drop a 2 in the comments if it makes sense. So we're not saying that if you ladies especially, you want that pair of shoes, you want that Michael Kors purse or Dooney or whatever, there are ways that you can still have what you want within your means without breaking the bank, so to speak. And I do know that every Tuesday, Jeff and I, we sit down with my personal business budget and personal things, and he's helping me with that, and it makes a lot of sense because there's a lot of freedom that comes to knowing that you have peace, that your bills are paid for, right? And you haven't overextended yourself. So many people are overextending themselves and find themselves in that rut, which we talked about, credit card debt and some other things before. All right, so as we are wrapping up today's Financially Fit session, I guess if you want to call it, here's a call to action for you guys. You can get started today. If you have any more questions about what you've heard today, don't hesitate to drop a question in the comment, or you can private message us and we will gladly get back to you. If you're looking for a budget template or some more info about how to set up those percentages for you, we can help you with that. Well, he can help you with that because he helped me with mine. So post the questions below. We appreciate you guys hopping on,
Absolutely.
letting us know if you're finding value with this. Please share it. Let us know how we can help you. Any questions for future financial questions? I'm telling you, this is the guy. He really is. He did it for the Air Force for 20 years. He knows his stuff. So next week, don't forget to join us next week on Sunday at 6 p.m. We're going to be talking about the importance of saving and investing, just the basics.
Right.
I mean, he can go a lot deeper into, what do you call those things,
Yeah.
and portfolios
Yeah, there's
and all
not
that.
going to be stock tips and things
Stock
like
tips.
that.
We're not doing all that.
Right.
Just basic. How do I save? How do I invest? Now that you've gone through and had your percentages, you have your percentages for your budget, and you're living within your means, that excess that you'll have, say it's, I don't know if it's $100, $200, $500, whatever it is, we're going to share some tips on what you can do and how to save and how to invest, because you want your money to work for you. So
Absolutely.
thank you, hun, for hopping on today, and thank you guys for hopping on, and thanks for sharing the video. Let us know if we can help in any other way with your financial questions in order to be financially fit. Y'all have a great Sunday evening. Happy Labor Day to all of you. Enjoy your Monday off. We'll see you next Sunday. Bye-bye.
All right, bye-bye.